Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great day. I just want to take a few minutes to share something that's been on my heart. As leaders, we're always growing, always learning, and I believe today's thought will help us become even better. Today I want to take a few minutes to talk about something that every leader has to learn if they're going to continue to grow, and that is flexibility. One of the greatest dangers in leadership isn't always resistance from outside the organization. Sometimes the greatest resistance comes from us. As leaders, we build systems, we create processes, we establish rhythms, we develop preferences, and all of those things can be good. In fact, healthy organizations require healthy systems. Without systems, organizations become chaotic. Without processes, things fall through the cracks. So I'm not against systems. I want to be clear. I'm all for them. But the problem comes when the systems that were designed to serve the vision begin to replace the vision. We become so committed to how we've always done it that we forget why we're doing it in the first place. The vision never changed. We just became attached to the method. As I was preparing for today, I wrote down this thought. We need to hold our vision with conviction, but our methods with an open hand. I think that's the tension every leader has to learn. Our vision is not negotiable. It doesn't change. At a live church, our vision is simple. We change lives. That will never change. But our methods should always be open to evaluation. Every system, every process, every meeting, every communication, and every structure. You should regularly be asking one question. Is this still helping us accomplish the vision? Because methods exist to serve the vision. The vision doesn't exist to serve our methods. And that leads me to ask another question that every leader should ask themselves. Am I protecting the vision or am I protecting my preference? Because those two things are very different. Sometimes we confuse our preference with principle. Sometimes we defend a process as though it's biblical. And sometimes we resist a new idea simply because it wasn't our idea. But here's what I've learned. Just because something worked in one season doesn't mean it's going to work in the next. Growth changes what is required of us. Jesus modeled this throughout his entire ministry. His message never changed, but his methods constantly did. Sometimes he taught in the synagogue. Sometimes he taught on a mountainside. He preached from a boat. He sat around a dinner table. Sometimes he healed publicly. Sometimes he healed privately. His purpose never changed, but his methods often did. Jesus wasn't committed to a process. He was committed to the purpose. And as leaders, we have to ask ourselves the same question. Am I more committed to my method than I am to the vision? Andy Stanley has a quote that I think is incredibly true. He says, your systems are perfectly designed to produce the results you're currently getting. Think about that for a second. If we're happy with the results, great. But if we believe God has called us to reach more people, develop more leaders, change more lives, then we should constantly be evaluating whether our systems are helping us get there. Not because the old systems were bad, but because there may be a better one. Healthy leaders never stop improving. And one of the quickest ways to know if we're becoming inflexible is this. When someone brings a new idea, what is our first response? Do we immediately start explaining why it won't work? Or do we become curious? Do we ask questions? Do we evaluate it? Healthy leaders aren't threatened by new ideas. Healthy leaders evaluate new ideas. Because sometimes God uses someone else's perspective to sharpen us. We see this in Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Sharpening requires friction. Sometimes another's perspective rubs against ours. Instead of resisting it, maybe we should just ask the question, is God using this conversation to sharpen me? Because flexible leaders are teachable leaders, and teachable leaders keep growing. And as we close, I wanted to share a quote from John Maxwell that I recently read, and I really liked. He says, the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The leader adjusts the sails. I think that's such a great picture of leadership. Every organization experiences changing winds. Culture changes, technology changes, communication change. People change. Our church grows, our teams grow. The needs of the people we're trying to reach continue to change. The question isn't whether the wind will change, because it will. The question is whether we'll be willing to adjust the sails. As leaders, we can't allow our systems, our processes, our thoughts, or even our preferences to become anchors that keep us from moving forward. Instead, let's hold our vision with conviction, but our methods with an open hand. Let's be quick to ask, is there a better way? Not because we're chasing every new idea, but because we're committed to doing whatever it takes to fulfill the vision that God has given us. So this week, let's be leaders who adjust the sails. Let's stay humble, let's stay teachable, and let's stay flexible. Because methods will change, systems will evolve, processes will improve, but our vision remains the same. And as long as we keep the vision at the center, we'll continue to change lives. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Talk to you soon.